Hi, I'm Jill Maurer, and today we're going to talk about strengths and weaknesses and designing your life around your own personal strengths and weaknesses. We often talk about strengths and weaknesses. In interviews, we're asked, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? I am going to invite you to shift your thinking on strengths and weaknesses and try to get out of your head this bias about strengths and weaknesses and think in terms of characteristics. In some situations, a certain characteristic is a strength, and in some situations, it's a weakness. And we can design our lives so that we set ourselves up so that most of our characteristics are strengths, and that we either eliminate or at least diminish the weaknesses or the characteristics that are weaknesses. Try to make those less important, because the fact is we're all individuals, we're all unique, we each have a specific set of characteristics. And how happy you are and how successful you are, successful as you define it, has a lot to do with whether you set yourself up to succeed. So the key here is to look at your characteristics and try to think of them objectively. Now, I've done a whole video on bias. It's very difficult to entirely remove your bias. If you want to see that, I've linked it below. But to try to just shift your thinking and say, instead of making one column of strengths and one of weaknesses, think about your characteristics. And then try to design your life so that most of those are strengths. So let me give you just an example before we get started of people who are good at this. Most entrepreneurs are actually very good at this. Generally speaking, we can look in a mirror and relatively objectively assess who we are and what our characteristics are. So Oprah Winfrey was one of the first people, or the first person to my knowledge, who said, you know what, I'm not doing these negative shows anymore. I'm not doing these things where we give support or give a platform to people who have what I perceive to be a very negative view on the world. I'm not going to cause people pain. I don't want to look in the eyes of somebody who I have just hurt in talking about this. If I cannot help them in some way, then we are not going to talk about it. So she was, the opposite of, say, the Jerry Springer, who goads people and wants that conflict. That's part of what he wants on his show. Likewise, it's no accident that Bill Gates started a software company. He was a visionary as far as computers, maybe not the most social guy, but that's not a strength or weakness. It's a fact. It's a weakness if you decide that you're going to sit down and talk to people on a TV show about their pain and loss. So he decided that's not what I'm going to do. I am going to direct these forward-thinking, brilliant, genius programmers, and we are going to create a world where everybody has a computer. That is his lane. That's where he thrives. And it's not that Bill Gates doesn't care about people. He cares about people. He's created foundations. He's given money. He cares about people. That doesn't have anything to do with it. It's about this ability to sit with them in their pain and find the positive and to help them. Not a lot of people have that skill. Oprah is one of those people who does have that skill. But if you try to imagine Oprah running Microsoft and Bill Gates running OWN, it wouldn't work. Even right now, today, even though both are successful companies, things would go wrong. It's just not a fit. So you can do this in your own life. So say, for example, you love to write. You know you're a writer. Say another one of your characteristics is that you just never get anywhere on time. You get jobs done on time, but you don't physically get yourself where you need to be on time every day, all day. What that tells you then is, if you get jobs done on time, maybe you could be a magazine writer or a newspaper writer or even a book writer, but maybe you're not going to teach about writing. You're not going to be a teacher where you have to get up every day and be there at 7:30, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in front of your students, ready to go. If you try to do that and you already know that that's not really going to work with your characteristics, you're fighting your own success by placing yourself where you know you're going to struggle. I'm not saying that you can put yourself in a situation where everything is perfect for you. Just be aware of these characteristics, where their strengths and weaknesses, and try to set yourself up well. If you decide that you do want to be that teacher, well, first of all, be very aware that this is one of the characteristics and design your life so that you get to where you need to be on time. But maybe instead of teaching in one school system where there's a rigid schedule, you teach in another school system where perhaps you can get up later, or maybe teach at night, or do what suits you more. So me, for example, I have an engineering degree, and in the beginning I worked as an engineer, and I would design things and I would do a lot of math and I did all of that stuff. Didn't really like it, as it turned out. There were people around me who liked it a lot more than I did. I really enjoy being a part of a team. I enjoy the big picture. Details are not really my thing. I can do them. I have studied accounting, I've studied engineering. I can do them. I just don't thrive there. So from the very beginning, I started moving to where I was doing more of the big picture. So instead of designing local area networks and wide area networks and packets traveling across the line, I more talked about the industry overall and consulted the industry on where I thought it was going and where I thought that they should fit into that, because it just made me happier. It also put me in front of a team, and I would work with people, and this was much more appealing to me and fit with my characteristics and helped me to succeed, as opposed to sitting by myself and coding. So even today, I have the luxury of having my own business and really creating it around me and around my skills. So again, I love having a team. It's a great team. I like to work with people who like to work together. We do things together. We have a vision together of where we want to go. And this is a lot of what drives me, about feeling like I'm part of this group and we're all in it together and we are going to conquer the world together. This is what drives me. So even when you look at this channel, I chose to talk about things that excite me, things about design, about shifting your perspective, about looking at things a little differently, about giving yourself and other people freedom. These are the things that excite me. You can do something very similar with your life. Just take a look at what are your characteristics, what do you enjoy, and how do you fit yourself in to a situation where you're most likely to flourish. So I just invite you to shift your thinking, to think about yourself in terms of your characteristics, and to be open and honest with yourself about your characteristics, and not to be judgmental about your characteristics. Your characteristics are not right or wrong, despite what you may have heard or what you may have been told or how you have been raised. Examine your own biases about your characteristics and ask yourself, how can I craft my life? How can I design my life so that my characteristics help me to flourish in that world, in that life? I hope you enjoyed this video on your characteristics and how they're not necessarily strengths or weaknesses. And I invite you to comment below and let us know, have you discovered in your life that a characteristic you previously thought was a weakness was actually a strength if you just applied it in the right situation? I look forward to hearing from you. And I invite you to subscribe. I upload videos every Thursday, sometimes more. I'll see you next Thursday.